listening to a little bit of my song, Do It. Uh, the professionals that I dealt with to get this music to the place that it is today, the Situation Room Music Studios, IJ Sterling, super duper producer on the track. I don't know, can you hear? If you want it, you can do it. If you got to prove it. If you want it, I'm gonna wait till a few more people come online. How y'all doing? Happy holidays. In the best way you know how. Just do it. Don't say how, just say why. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's going down through my tummy. Feel it, let it flow. Let's go. Ashe, ashe. Not sure what's going on with everybody else on this Soulful Sunday. How you doing? How you doing? Precious Mother Love. Just wait for folks to come on in. Then you know, if you let it flow, if you let it go, it's gonna flow. So what do these other gadgets mean here? On the tip of my tongue, it's going down. Ooh, it's going down. Mute the microphone, share, highlight, save a highlight. Okay. And then I can turn the camera around too. So good things to see before I hit the highway. All right, One Love and Wellness. Let's go ahead and get it started. Ashe, ashe. I hope everybody's having a beautiful, soulful Sunday. I'm going to talk about dream seeding. I'm always talking about time. And the happy holy days falls into the subject of time. Time on the grand scale, time on the big picture scale. Like, for instance, winter solstice, autumn, fall, spring, all of those are times and times of the year. I'm about to hit the highway. I'm right by the exit. And as soon as I get on, I can start a little more specific conversation. But I just wanted to get it started before I got into a place where it would be dangerous for me to start recording. So 95 exit, here we come. I'm on the exit now. We're about to swing a loop and get on the highway. So these holy days that we are observing, I feel a sneeze coming. I feel a sneeze. Am I going to? Bless me. Here we go. 65 miles an hour, and we're going to have a conversation about holy days and dream seeding and catch me if you can. So as Precious Mother Love, you know, I have been having a lot of things happening leading up to these holy days. You know, I include the Day of Thanks or the Day of Giving Thanks as the kickoff of these holy days. And it really, really is a consecutive lunar/solar activity with starting in the month of October when we start talking about All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day. And then we move into, you know, these cycles of our lunar. You know, we've had an eclipse in that time. We've had a an annular eclipse where you see the circle around it. And I've learned a lot of things through watching the positions, or I guess you say, not settings, but you know how the moon has the different, you know, the waning and waxing of the moon causes certain fractions of the moon to be observable. The full moons and having full moon events for about off and on for the first 2 years, but 8 years then, the moon is also the tool, or not tool, but the observation that is made in order to consider when certain other events will happen. Sometimes the first full moon after certain things, like for instance, after, I think it's 2 full moons after winter solstice is the new moon. I mean, it's the new year for, it's the Chinese New Year. And then, the same thing for Easter, the same thing for other observable holy days. It seems to synchronize with positions or with the evolution or revolution of the moon, or us revolving around it. I don't know. I want to stay away from the conversation of flat moon, flat Earth versus a sphere Earth, but some of the things that I say, it would make a difference if it were one versus the other. And I think that I believe it's a political thing that's going on now in reference to whether we want to save sun time. I think that the sun bill that's been I guess put forth stirred up a lot of reasons why to do it and reasons why not to do it. And we've gotten used to so many things according to the changes, during certain times of the year. The sun is in a position that, if we change the time during that time, there may be some other things that also would not necessarily interfere with, but would need to be adjusted. So I want to speak on dream seeding now, because I think I want to get back to the time on the big scale and the holy days, because what I have to tell you about in my most recent dream seeding episodes will lead us back to the time on a big scale. So the dream seeding conversation, we started on the last episode, and we really never we just grazed the surface on it. But I want to talk about just how big it is, and isn't even being considered. At least I wasn't. I wasn't considering it on the scale that I'm about to describe to you. So 10 years ago, just before my birthday, just after my birthday, around this kind of timeline of the year. This is just before we're in December, but around this time, 10 years ago, late fall, I had a couple of thoughts consecutively for a couple of consecutive days. I says, I could use a paid vacation. I would like to grow my business. I would like to be able to eat and live off of my business. And in addition, I said, I also wanted to get away from, I was in a domestic violence situation, and I wanted to get away from that scenario, safe, sound, and calmly and collected. And so it turned out that after I had put the fourth requisition in place, I feel like I placed it into the universe. After I had put those, and these were quiet thoughts, these were thoughts that I had within my mind. I was dreaming of, it would be a dream if I could have an elongated paid vacation, if I could have my business, time to grow my business, if I could get my business to the place where I could eat off of it, and where I could land somewhere safely and get away from the domestic violence. I seemed to have also found out at the time that the person I was dating had some mental wellness concerns, and they had medication, and they were not taking their medication, and so some of their off-balanced energies were being violently separation from myself. And to do it safely, I did. In one full swoop, one fell swoop, in one accident. That one thing that happened is I slipped on the ice on the way into work, broke some bones, not just one, broke some bones. And at the time I was in divinity school. So I'm going to tell you a miraculous story, but I'm going to tell you, some more specifics about what I have shared with you previously about this miraculous story. Because at that time, being in divinity school, being in a place where, the mindset is changing towards what wellness is, what energy is, what tarot and numerology and all these other things, this divinity school was like a mystery school. And so because I was learning all these things at the time when I put the order into the universe, I was being willy-nilly with some thoughts that I could have been more specific with. I could have told the universe, when I said safe and sound, I did not mean that I would like to be impaired physically. And I was impaired by this broken bone, by these broken bones. So anyway, so I get to a place where I go see about this ailment, and I have a hard time, when I've healed from something, I have a hard time going back to discuss it prior to the healing. So forgive me for the fumbling that I might end up doing while I'm trying to express this to you, and I sincerely apologize. I apologize so much that it felt deep inside me just now when I was saying that, because I'm actually apologizing to myself. So I'm apologizing to myself that when we speak about these things before there was a healing that occurred, then we don't need to go back to the actual physical feeling of it. We just need to go back to the fullness of that we were healed from it. So I was healed from these broken bones, and I was going to tell you something about the process. The first time that the physicians observed in the hospital, the first visit was an ER visit. That visit said, okay, they x-rayed and they saw there were some broken bones. So I went inside of myself with some healing, and then I went into a corporate prayer position where I'm, in this divinity school. I says, hey, I spoke to my professor, and I was like, Professor, I'd like for, you to have a healing session with me, and she did. And then from there, she decided, let's have a corporate prayer scenario, and she did. And that was on, let's see, it happened on a Wednesday. Thursday, everything was observed as broken. Sunday, the first part of Sunday was when I had the session with the professor. And then the corporate prayer in that early part of Sunday. And then there was a church that I had gone to in Georgetown on Q Street called the Church of Two Worlds. And they did the same thing. Once I told Pastor Michael or Chief Michael, once I told him about these broken bones, he brought it to the attention of the church and asked them to pray for me. And they all put their hands in my direction, and they were able to produce what I feel is miraculous healing, because in the next physician appointment, when I actually was able to get to the specialist also had to do some x-rays, and they observed it and were like, there's no break on here, what's going on? And then they kept taking the x-rays, and they kept sending me back to the x-ray, and it was nothing. No broken bones. It was a lot of tendon, it was a lot of nerve, a lot of ligament stuff that was going on, but nothing. But the fractures had been healed, and it was observable on the x-rays. But the physician kept treating me, it was very, very helpful to be able to have that concentrated energy healing, full healing. After the time went by, I actually was on paid vacation because of the healing time, because of the physicians, knowing, I wasn't able to put pressure on it for a particular period of time. This was my first time as observing this kind of spontaneous healing. So then I actually had some other things, some other bones, some other accidents, some other injuries that at that point I felt like, well, damn, if they could do that with me in conjunction with me allowing, accepting, and willing to do what it takes on my end as the receiver of that healing energy. If I were able to do that previously, then guess what? What else can I do? I can heal it in other cases. So, over the years, I've had things like burn. I've had other things broken. I've had other illnesses and ailments of my skin and my body, and all over. In different ways, I've had them healed instantly, sometimes minutes, sometimes seconds, and sometimes in a shortened or condensed time frame. And it just started sticking, started getting into my mind that it was all how you thought, right? It's all how you think. And the more I changed the way I thought, the more I was able to have beautiful things happen. And you know how people say, have a good day on purpose. I started having good days on purpose. I started having good days. Good things happen. People come to me. I was very willing and accepting and allowing. My business grew. I started eating off my business right away. And the energy that I would put into, I would infuse good energy into things that I would make in all my congregations and all my stone combinations and my stone grids, my copper and crystal grids, my all the things that I would make. And oh, by the way, here's another ring that's recent from one of my recent collections. And here are Love+Art equals wellness. I very rarely make a big deal out of my jewelry, but I specifically infuse energy in my creations of wellness, of healing, of love, of whatever it is that either the person that I'm making it for, whatever I feel and sense and empath or pick up on that they are in need of, I infuse it with that. So, okay. So now 10 years later, right? So these holy days came up and I started having some, I guess you could say, I don't want to say sick. I had some stinking thinking. Going on. And those thoughts were leading me to some mindsets about some people that I should just have left alone. I should just have decided to be as I had always been. It's as though I was gossiping with myself. I had some things that were going on and some people in my life. And I had a few comments, with the peanut gallery in my mind, right? And one was I had invited all these people to this one event and the event was canceled. And even though those people had said, well, if I don't make it this time, I'll make it next time. I had some, this is me, the same way I had those four thoughts that led me to 10 years ago where I ended up. The same thing happened this year, and this is, the other thing is it was close to my birthday, a decade mark. And so I had that's some stinking thinking about some other things that were going on that perhaps something that I was doing at that moment. I was saying, that might offend somebody, but I'm not going to let it offend me, because whatever that was, those other people would be offended by, it was not as bad as what they did. And why am I saying that, what I'm doing is not as bad as them? I don't know. So to me, that was some stinking thinking. To me, that was me thinking I'm better, put myself in an elevated position instead of using the same yardstick for myself. So I had two other thoughts, and those thoughts came and culminated in, because one was, I want a paid vacation. That was one of those two. I had some stinking thinking, and I did not focus it. I didn't learn 10 years ago that I was supposed to focus it more than that. Oh, man. I should have learned that back then. And with the learning of the healing of the bone part, what I later learned was I needed to get specific with the healing, specific energy to say, don't just say heal it. Go in like a doctor would go in and go research what it is you think it is or what you've been told that it is, so that you can observe all the specifics about it, and then in specific with that energy say, I need these things healed. I need these things, not need, but healed. These things are healing. These things are healed. These things, because that's the whole thing. I was always thinking, oh, it's done. It's done. As soon as I say it's done, boom, it's supposed to be done. All I have to do is be patient. And it may not even have to be a patient situation. I may have to be just so allowing and so open and so well able to receive that it happens in an instant. There was a time when I was at a physician's office. I was diagnosed with some sort of blood disorder, and I decided I wanted to get a second opinion. And I went to get this second opinion from a doctor that happened to be a praying doctor, who happened to be, and he had been my doctor for years, but I never knew he was a praying doctor. He'd been my family's doctors, friends, folks that I grew up with. He was a well-known doctor. And I believe he met his demise early. I think there was some hanky-panky, and I don't know in specifics. I just know that my energy, my sensitivity, my empathic energy meter is picked up on some things. So let's go back to that physician, right? So he decided that, he says, I think there's some spirits going on. I think there's some energies that you need to be cleansed of. I think that there's something going on that we need to pray about. So he put his forehead on my forehead, and we leaned our heads down, and then I put my hands out, and he put his hands on top of mine. OMG, he said, I need to all the prayer that he said. I'm like, oh my God, he sounded like a pastor, but this is a physician. So when I started feeling a burden from my head to my toes, a tingling situation, like it was everything. It was just like I could feel all the little particles that were in me, trillions of little particles going to work. And in 15 minutes, I was healed. And it hasn't returned. Nothing has happened. I had gotten these other tests done, and it proved that it was negative. And it just so many times that I have to remember that is what I remember that helps to give, that happened before the broken bone. That happened when I was living in Baltimore. That happened before I moved back to DC. That happened when my daughter, this was maybe 20 years ago, really. Every 10 years, I had been going through a cycle of some major things going on in my life. And that was one of those major things. I was told that I had this debilitating whatever, and I didn't want to believe it. My hair was falling out. I would wake up with my skin doing certain things. And, that was after they had introduced to me what this was. Like, they tested me for something that I didn't know they were testing me for, but they didn't know the reason why some things were happening, and I knew the reason. But they thought because there are some other reasons that these things can happen, that they would project something else. I think that a lot of times when a physician is actually not healing, but diagnosing you, it's very similar to what I feel like car doctors do. As a matter of fact, I say car doctor because My father was a mechanic. My brothers, a lot of my brothers are mechanics, and it's a feeling out situation. If it fits this, particular description, you have to narrow it down further and further as to, well, if it does this, then it's not that. Well, if it doesn't do this, then it's not that. So it seems to me that you knowing yourself best, you being the science of self is very important. That's one of the things that I really, really tout. I really, really am very, very adamant about, is the only way that you will be able to become a wiser and well-respected elder is if you are able to learn self first, learning about yourself first, and then you're able to apply some of these learnings to those outside of yourself, because again, we're all one, although we all have some individual uniquenesses. It is enough likenesses to our beings to compare or to perhaps discuss and learn from each other. But it's definitely something that I feel knowing yourself is like first priority, and the more you know yourself, the more you're able to help others. The more you're helping yourself, the more you help yourself, the more you're able to help others. And that's another, it sounds like something similar to when they tell you, in the airplane, to put the mask on yourself first so that you can help others, because you be in the middle of helping somebody else and then you can't help yourself, right? So in the meantime, so that physician, and I'm gonna go ahead and say his name, Dr. Franklin. I love and respect him dearly. There may be some other names that I do not express, but he was very helpful in my journey of learning about energies and healing and wellness and the energy of wellness. Just the same way wealth is an energy, is a particular trait, like a personality. Like you can choose to have a wealthy mindset, not thinking a mindset of lack. You can choose that mindset of abundance. You can choose the mindset of wellness. You can choose the mindset of balance and peace and love and joy and happiness. These are choices. These aren't things that just come upon you because they do. These are things that when they do present themselves, that you open yourself to allow and continue. And when I say when they present themselves, I mean like their energy in motion. And all those things are energies that we have labeled because of where the vibration is on the scale. We can go from unhappy to happy just by choosing the thought. And I know I've spoken of this before, but the more you do something, the more you get stuck in doing that, or the more that you are able to rise above other things. So like, say for instance, if I'm a person that thinks more of the color blue, I'm going to see more of the color blue. If I think more of the color red, I'm going to see more of the color red. So if I decide I want a red car, I'm going to wear a red dress, I'm going to wear red shoes or red bottoms, then I'm going to start noticing more other people wearing red, more red cars, more red shoes, more red bottoms. Same way, if I'm unhappy, I'm going to start seeing more and more of that. But I choose happy, so I see more and more happy people. I see more and more people around me that are learning from my example, and I'm learning from their example. They can choose to be happy through these things, but that is all, again, a part of the energy that you decide to sit in, that you decide, okay, I can either allow these things to influence me and throw me off and become an obstacle and become an issue or become some deterrent or something of a distraction, or I can say, come one day, I reminds me of the story of Job, that to a degree it reminds me, because at that point, I think that he was used as an example of, if you keep your mind stayed on the right thing. Let's put it that way. It's, to me, a story that tells you, keep your mind stayed on the right thing. Focus on the big picture. Focus on the point of the matter, your mission, your mind. Mind your matters. Your matters mind. Any matters that you mind will matter. I don't know if I said that right in a way that you might understand it, but let me just say, the 5 words for supernatural wellness that I received from a divine download. Oh my God, it's so special to me when I say that, because it is not something that I sat there and thought of. Again, this is something that when I was in need and when I put it out there in the universe, I seeded my dreams. I said, I need some expression of my artistry to help me to evolve. And I began to use it therapeutically. I kept looking for answers for myself, things that I was seeking, things that I would like to know more about, and desired to have my thirst for knowledge quenched, in the further development and digging into, the divinity, theology, cosmology. All these things were coming to me as tools, and I wanted them to mean more to me. I wanted to have more, to be tuned more into those things. I wanted to be, my desire was to walk in the fullness thereof. Because, when I was young, it was brought to my attention, that Jesus and I were brothers. It was brought to my attention that greater things than these shall ye do. And I'm sorry, I keep getting emotional, but I'm speaking on some things in my life that are very heavy to me, that are very deep to me. So I'm so sorry that I'm not able to, I don't know, maybe it's helping me to make my point, to let you know just how deep it goes into my psyche, into my thoughts, my way of thinking. So back in 2018, I had a spiritual marriage and a spiritual annulment. Ain't that crazy? Yeah, so those were people waving flags on the bridge over 95 with the 2 flags of the countries at war. And I don't want to be too specific, but yes, I honked in support. I would like to see a more even temperament. I would like to see a more even temperament in the global climate. So, in any case, so yeah, I have had some very, very heavy spiritual things happen in my life, and I know I've spoken of many things, things where I've seen the veil drop, things where I've gone through different dimensions, some Harry Potter moments, some Matrix moments, and this is before the movies even came out, and some things that have happened like those things since those movies have been out. And there's a lot of movies that have come out that were able to, I was able to relate to some of the things, and it was able to help me go even deeper, further, longer, and stronger in some of the areas where I needed some additional support. And, you have to cherry pick some of these things in these entertainment pieces, media that we see in our media. So I don't take them all as face value. No, it's only certain things that resonate with me, and certain things that will be answered, because they don't, where it's in mainstream, it's not as, it might be in your face in some ways, but it's just not like it used to be, where, it was like, and even things like Frankenstein and all these things have some elements to Boston, the $6 million man, that $6 million would not go as far today in our medical arena. Or the bionic woman. We're able to do those things now. But you're also able to do things like repair ourselves well to heal itself. And you just may have to support some healing in ways that, your nutrition and the proper thoughts in order for you to heal certain things. And that's what I've been able to grasp so far from my healing journey. And I'm sure there'll be more things that I'll be able to share in the future about things that I used as my healing tools. I also use my copper. I also use the crystals. I also use an ionic foot detox. I also use other electronic devices that have encouraged the environment or the energy or the frequency of healing. And so, I just wanted to make sure that, all these things are imitations of things that we're capable of doing, but sometimes these tools are able to bridge the gap from our being confident in our own doing as far as in our own healing. So I just continue to do my thing, and I'm going to continue to share. And previously, I'm going to be very honest, previously, this is the 4th season of Heart Happy Hour, right? It took me 3 seasons to get to the place where I am now, where I can actually talk about some of the things that I initially started to talk. These were the things I wanted to talk about. I clearly wanted to get to these things, but I could not feel comfortable in doing that. And there are times when, my video has been pulled, or it has been, I've got my different accounts. Like I couldn't do this on Facebook because Facebook, they kept pulling it. Facebook kept not allowing me to share with this kind of honesty. And they would say it was, some sort of complaint or somebody, whatever report, this, that, and the other. And I am, whatever the case is. So that's another reason why I came to YouTube, right? Because YouTube will allow you to be a lot more forthright and a lot more open in arenas and areas that Facebook might not be, even though they have a lot of crossover as far as, who's pulling those strings. They are platforms that have different restrictions and rules, policies, and procedures, right? So I seeded my dreams with some stinking thinking this time, right? But immediately I turned it around. I'm like, why are you thinking like that? Don't think like that. I immediately had to twist everything 360 back to the 180, whatever, to the right places, into the right frequencies, and into the right lanes, into the right mindset. I actually had to get to a place where I was on track, back on track. And it is miraculously, I'm confirming miraculously, like I can't, there's, like, you wouldn't believe it. So I'm not going to tell you the specifics. That's what I said before. This time nothing was broken. This time everything is like clockwork, moving forward. I mean, like rapid pace, turbocharge, turbo energy. And I actually am okay with showing my family this at this point. That was the hard part before, to share with my family, like my spiritual community. Even though some of them might not even believe it, but in my spiritual community, they're a lot more allowing, accepting, and, will hear and realize the value of what I'm sharing in reference to your mindset. You got to have the right mindset. So, this year, as the holidays, holy days had approached, I felt a certain energy that was starting to brew in me, and it had a lot to do with another episode that happened a few happened, I began to question a lot of my previous decisions because I had to go in and do some changing, some shadow work based on some things that had happened previously in the past. And so, so I went back to change these things. And while I was changing those things, some of my mindset started changing. Some of the things that I had, they were foundational pieces that I had changed. So I really started to get a little upset with myself about feeling like those things, and how I had gotten to that place was based on a lot of tales, a lot of lies, a lot of false feelings, so I had to go back and re-establish those feelings. And in the process, I forgot that's what I was doing. In the process, I started to get away from being on the right track. And so I had to go back and start reseeding and replanting and weeding and pulling and tilling and getting the, remake, not in these orders, but, as soon as I pulled up one weed, I'd have to, repack the ground and the foundation, the basis for which those things were built on. I'd have to pull those things out too, and re-energize that whatever that ground that it sat on. I mean, there's been a lot of, and this was prior to my birthday, that because every year when my solar return comes, I feel it energetically 30 days before I start really feeling it. But like 6 months before, when my full moon, when the full moon is in my astrological sign, then that's when I think it starts kicking off into the next evolution, the next, because each year as I move up, it's almost like I'm building tree rings. I'm stepping up on what I had, everything I accumulated up to that point. And as I go higher and higher in my elevated eldership, now with this amount of years under my belt, these amount of times around the sun, then I'm stepping on my past, the things that are building my foundation, that are foundational things for me every year. And so I start feeling it 6 months in advance, and then 3 months in advance, and then 30 days in advance. So each one of those increments are very, they're also the things you think about as far as quarterly. We have these, the equinox and the solstice, every 3 months we have those. So 4 times a year we have these, temperament changes of the environment. And, the temperature changes, the various signs and symptoms of the seasons, they change and evolve as our cycles continue. And so when I say on the big time, time on the grand scale, so now I have started to sense and feel and relate to how the same way, if Earth, the sun, the moon, if all these planets, if we're all made up of the same thing, if I've got melanin, which is in the ethers, which is in the darkness, if I've got all of the elements that are in these other celestial beings, then I will be affected by the same things that affect them. And the more I sense these things energetically, the more I tune into that these things are. I want to make sure that I am the exit door. Okay, and so I'm going to have to make sure I take the right exit. I am not going all the way HOME. I'm going to stop to make past my parents. So I just want to stay on point, talk that out loud to myself so that I can make sure I stay on point. So these celestial beings that we are likened to, the more I liken myself to them and their, the things that influence them or the things that they influence, then the more I see the synergy or synchronized So we spoke about slightly the holy days, and these are positionings of the moon, positionings of the sun, positionings of the planets, all through the year. And these are for different calendars that we have incorporated into what we observe. Because there are some holidays that are from various ethnics. I mean, like, I'm not Jewish, but I will, depending on who I work for, may have Yom Kippur off, or I might have, might be observing Hanukkah in celebration of, the full, whomever might have, if you have Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever, all these other little acronyms that you can throw into the little string of things. If we have a inclusive environment, then we're going to celebrate these things together. But then we also might even start to realize that we're all observing something spiritual around this time, and might start thinking at how similar they are in essence or origin. I'm hoping those are my thoughts. I'm projecting. But I'm also saying that, the more I liken myself to the big picture, the more I cannot be specific as a religion. As I can't be that specific. I can only observe that these are days of holy energy. When we come winter solstice, and the sun rests for those 3 days in the position of rest. For those 3 days, then it is, you recognize that it syncs up with when the sun is born on the 25th. So when the sun is born on the 25th, S-U-N versus S-O-N, and in German, the sun, their offspring, is S-U-N. So it just kind of, there's some confusing points that are kind of clumped together in some ways that we don't necessarily like. Our language is, and I want to say bastard language, but I just want to say it incorporates a lot of other languages, I mean, based on Latin, based on Hebrew, a lot of other languages are based on those two languages. Aramaic. I mean, these are things that over the years, like when I was in high school, I learned, I actually had some Latin that I had learned that helped me in the etymology of things, and has been really helpful over my adult years as I start to break things down, because it really gives you a fuller understanding of the origin of the word, so that you can see how it has evolved up to today in whatever way it's being observed now. So I know that we're getting long-winded here. I know it's about 49 minutes. I don't want to go too long. I do want to say that the more I talk, the more I can talk. So I apologize for being so wordy and lengthy today, but I'll come back and speak more on the holy days. But I did want to speak about the dream seeding, because the dream seeding isn't something that happens just from night dreams. It's definitely, you can program, and, I talk about the gateway meditation. The gateway meditation is one of the ways to seed your dreams, to consciously take control over where you want to go, where your desires are, where your interest is. So if your intent and attention is on purpose, on point, then you're more likely to move forward in the ways that are more in line with what you've put out there. And so I just need to happen the good as well as the bad. So you might as well take control of that in your sights and set it for yourself. So my 5 words of supernatural wellness, and hydrate, cleanse or detox. Third is, you're working on your thoughts and your thinking. And then fourth is actually setting your sights. And then fifth is letting works together as a holistic point of view. I think I had gotten off of it to a degree, starting to take certain things for granted, starting to live a lifestyle. Love plus art equals wellness is a lifestyle. And it came about because I had chosen to have the lifestyle of the awareness of, as the student was developing into the master of all of the things that, as I said, I mentioned, the mystery schools were teaching me and I went to more than one, ISC, your new practice, Sarah said, it was a part of Tariq Bey. Man, that's a heavy dude, man. He has high level knowledge, and then that reminds me, then there are other mentors that I have participated with, like Billy Carson, going to his Manifest Destiny classes and being a part of his tutelage. I consider him a mentor, and he does have some of my jewelry I was able to photograph. I think you may see that on some of my pages or whatever. But Jordan Maxwell, he's another one. He's another one that has very well fulfilled some of my quest, my thirst for knowledge. Santos, there are many. Dr. Sabi, when he was alive, Dr. Africa. I participated in some of his events where I met him in person and his wife, and I can include people like Nate at Dynamic Wellness. I can include Mama Dorita, Professor Dorita. I can include a lot of people. The list is very long, including my parents, including my offspring, because I taught her a lot of things. So she in turn has turned around with her development of her studies, been able to share things with me as well. So One Love and Wellness, Love plus Art equals wellness. That was my wrap up. Happy holidays, holy days. Happy holiday season. Happy almost winter solstice. Happy belated day of giving thanks, season of thanks. Going into almost Black Love, Happy Black Love Day, all those days. I'm just, and that is also another time. All these holy days, I'm telling you, look at the solar picture, look at the celestials, look at what we don't often do is look into the beyond, and you'll find more and more answers to relate to your science of self. So One Love and Wellness, Love plus Art equals wellness. Thank you for joining me for Heart Happy Hour Season 4. I am Precious Mother Love. I hope that you got something out of what I said. Like, subscribe, share, and One Love and Wellness. Let's see if I can play some music. Here we go. Is that going to work? Oh, that doesn't work. So I don't know if I'll be able to do that speedy enough way that it happens. I just had to do it. Through it. With me. I just want to let you know, you just got to do it. And if you got to change your mind, about things, this guy was coming off the exit. Nobody gave him space. He wanted to get out, so I just let him out. When I'm driving, I'm not in such a rush anymore that I have to speed off and let people sit and simmer when they could very well sip and zoom right with the rest of us. If I'm able to blend and intentionally allow, then I will. It's going down through my tummy. I can feel it, let it flow. Well, love and wellness. See you next time. Heart Happy Hour Season 4. Let's go.